Every year you tell yourself that you're going to start taking better care of yourself. You're going to go to the gym. You're going to eat right. It's going to be your year. How many years have you actually made that a reality? Let me help you because I know you can do it. Let's decide.
You a part of the code? We say sure. Is that shit the joke? I'm not.
A little birdie told me that this was the year you wanted to get into shape. The year you wanted to take control and make things better for yourself. And I want to do my best here just to give you a full comprehensive guide of how you could get started in the gym. My name is Luciph. I've been in the gym for a little over 14 years. I'm the king and creator of culture, and fitness for me was my rehab. For me, it was what I could fill the void with and still drive and still better myself without worrying about external factors, and that I could just zero in and focus on my own self-improvement. And that was around when I was 17. I'm almost 31 now, and it's been a trying yet beautiful journey. So it's something that I want to share with as many people as I'm able. I would have been gone a decade ago without the gym and fitness. Once you get into it, it's very hard to comprehend not being in it and a part of it. So I just want to try to extend the olive branch for any of you who would like to get into the gym, who want to start looking better, who want to start feeling better. It very much so translates to other areas of your life where you can focus on you and just your progress, and it's something that can still the world and quiet all the noise, and something that you can just focus on. It's a beautiful thing. Don't be afraid of the gym. The gym is a place where no matter what level you are, no matter who you are, no matter what you are, we're all there just to improve ourselves. So everyone there wants the best for you as they do themselves. So it's a very supportive community, and it's somewhere that you should learn to love and enjoy. So we're going to go through this. I'm going to give you all some tips on training, a basic training plan, some supplements that could help you and things to start off with, and basic diet and nutrition goals and calculations that you can do to get you started. And then from then on, I'm going to be doing more and more short YouTube videos and videos in general, just to show each of the exercises that I do and to show them more in depth. I've been doing a couple videos that I show the exercises that I'm privy to and how I like to do them. And we're just going to keep it going forward. So I hope you all had an awesome New Year's and that you're ready to make a change this year. You're still the same you. It's not new year, new me, all of that. You're still you, but it's just a tweak of decisions, and that alone will change everything. Your perspective will begin anew. So let's get this. I am proud of you for even looking at this video and putting it into your mind, planting the seed of your growth and evolution, and you taking control of your vessel and your destiny. So let's get this rolling. Love y'all, culture. I hope this helps in some way or another.
They don't need a ratchet, swinging on them like clank. It's a jack and
Now, before you go off and listen to all the things that I have to say and allow me to be your guide and commander, I'll tell you a little bit about my history in fitness. I grew up always very active. I grew up wrestling, doing MMA. I played a bunch of different sports. I didn't really excel in most of the team sports. I found out I'm not particularly awesome when it comes to team sports, but individual sports I tend to have a knack for. So I was always pretty athletic, but my beginning of fitness was, I believe, 7th grade, before I went into middle school. And I was nervous. I grew up very shy. and I was very nervous about just gym class, good old normal PE, fitness, whatever the class was labeled under. And so I was staying at my friend's house a family friend's house when we first moved back to Utah. And I asked him what the beginning warm-ups were for PE, and it was 10 push-ups and 25 crunches or something like that. So I got down. I was skinny. I used to be called and made fun of by my family and friends. They used to call me Smeagol and Golem from Lord of the Rings because I was just like a twig with these big old blue eyes and big ass dome that I got. And so I got down and tried to do the 10 push-ups, and I failed, which caused a little bit of an inner calamity where I was just terrified because I knew I wasn't going to be able to do just the basic warm-up. So before that happened, I began every day, every night, just push-ups, crunches, leg lifts, all these calisthenic type moves, and I would just do it again and again. And by the time I was actually in school and doing it, I ended up being one of the best in the class. So it was something that I just recognized where I was at and where I should be, and it just kept me pushing. Then after that, Never Back Down came out, and that movie was like my life. I wanted to be the next Ryan, even though he was a douchebag. I thought he had a crazy physique, and just that confidence was something that I looked up to. I grew up watching animes like Dragon Ball, and I was very into Mortal Kombat, which all of those things just put into my mind physique, you want to look crazy. And so that's where it began for me. Going from wrestling and MMA and just calisthenics, eventually I found out I am injury prone, so maybe MMA as a career wasn't the move for me. And from then on, I went through wrestling and just went as hard as I could in it, and I did excel. I wasn't the best of the best, but I was always pretty athletic and scrappy and very strong for my size. And I ended up getting a couple of injuries from that stopped those dreams and goals, and from then I started to get into the gym. I used to be someone who used to talk shit on people who would weightlift because I liked fighting, and I don't know why when someone gets into martial arts or fighting that they think that bodybuilding is just the worst and just horrible, because the me now compared to me back then would throttle myself. Even though I'm not training all the way, my cardio is not great. Building this connection with your vessel is a very good thing, a very beautiful thing to understand how your body works and what works best with it, what foods, what exercises, where you excel and where you are not great. It's a really cool journey to experience. So after I got myself injured in wrestling after high school, I took up the gym. My last years of high school were filled with trauma that I definitely put myself into. I went from being a little Mormon LDS boy my whole life up until 17, clean. I got other people out of weed and stuff because I thought it was the right thing to do, which, being that young, probably still a good thing to get people not into that. But that translated to me getting into the gym and just being able to push myself, as when I was 17, I was a heroin addict, and I went from no substances until just a bad chapter after a bad chapter happened, and I just went into a very dark place and was like, now I just want to try everything and see what I've been missing and what I should experience in this life. And I took that and ran with it. So that led me into trying out substances, and I upped the ante slowly to where the end of the year I was a full-blown pretty much heroin addict, where it was every day, it was while I was at school, it was in between classes, nodding off in class, and I honestly don't know how I didn't get caught or in trouble, but I've always been a little bit of a sneaky yuck, so I got away with it, I suppose, and I got to the point where I decided it's going to be OD or quit cold turkey. And honestly, OD sounded a lot more preferable for me, but in the end, I didn't want to add anything else to my loved ones' plates, and I didn't want to just be more of a burden onto everybody I cared about. So I put the needle down, and I went through those withdrawals it just felt like days in hell, where you're just sitting in your own pain and misery, your own blood and feces, and it's not a pretty sight, you know. I was cutting into myself just to feel a little bit again, to have a little sense of control, because once you fall into something like that, when you're going through those withdrawals, you are so beyond sensitive, you wouldn't understand. It is the worst thing that I could ever try to envision for somebody. And I took that energy and I learned to channel it into the gym and channel it into me and my own self-progression, and to stop worrying so much about the outside world and other perspectives, and to really just hone in on what I am and what I want to become and the enjoyment of life. And now that I've been through all of that, I feel, you know, when situations happen, you've been through worse, so it's easier to just smile through the pain and to try to help other people through their pain, as opposed to focusing on your own, and to channel that out in artistic ways. For me, the gym was the beginning, and then I found music, and now both of those just work in tandem to keep me alive and thriving. So it's something that I want to share with everybody. I know this is a long tangent, but I just wanted to let y'all know about who I am and what this has done for me. I truly believe it's something that everybody should do. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how fit you are. I feel like you focusing inward and building the connection with your vessel and learning to push yourself is something that translates to all other areas of life. And it's something that I just want to help people get into. I understand getting into it is the hardest part, because it's a decision you make. And once you make this decision, you don't go back. You're in the gym, at least I'm in the gym until I can't be anymore now. It's something that I need. It's my church. So it's just a little history of me. I tried plenty of lifting styles after I initially got into the gym and got out of my demons. At the beginning, it was just typical bodybuilding, lots of high reps, lots of moving around, lots of cardio, honestly. It was like a fitnessy bodybuilding type of thing. It was like by a guy named like Ryan Hughes or something, who I don't see anymore, but that was my first style. Just normal, good old lifting, like 15 to 20 reps a lot of the time, a lot of sets. And from there, I got into power bodybuilding from Mr. Mike O'Hearn, who oh, it's easy to be duped at the beginning when you don't understand how fitness and these things work. But honestly, the bro still has a crazy physique, and I still made some good progress from listening to at least just his fitness advice and just building my foundation on a power level. But since then, the past 8-9 years, I was in Vegas, and I learned under Marcus Reinhardt, who was like the prodigy child of Mike Mentzer, and I learned the heavy duty hit style, and I've made like a little bit of alterations and tweaks to make it like my own thing, but in general, that's the style I like to do, and that feels best for me. But that's just something that I want to help get you into as a base. Really, I want you to try a bunch of different training styles and find out what works for you and what you enjoy. But I'm going to show you the one that works for me best and how I think it could help you and give you a good base of getting into the gym each week and just pushing yourself in a safer manner my style of training is like anti-ego. So I'm not going in there being like, you're fucking benching maxed out every day. Like, we do things that, for me, I know are tried and true, at least for myself and my friends and people I've trained throughout the years. This is, for me, I go the more artistic venture. So if you're more animalistic or more scientific, those work just as well. It just depends how you are minded and how you're wired. So I hope I can give you some of my knowledge and some of these past 14 years condensed into this little video, which I yap, but it's all of this information is stuff that I think that I would like you to know before you undertake this. So that's a little bit about me. I've done fitness modeling since I was like 20-ish, maybe a little younger, and I've always stayed in pretty great shape. I still do want to get better, and that's why I also want to do this channel and why I want to extend fitness into culture so I can keep myself accountable and keep myself growing as all of you do and keep ourselves striving. So let's get this. One last thing I want to impart with you is once you set this goal, you decide. It's not like, oh, maybe. Once you've made the decision, it's as easy as you allow it to be. You could be in the gym every day if you wanted to be, but really it just comes down to that decision and deciding that this is important. You know, don't let a scare or like, don't wait until you get a fitness scare or a health scare for you to be like, oh man, I really need to get into shape. Like, if you're not in shape and paying attention to your vessel and what you're allowing in it and how you are pushing it, then it's time to make a change. Just period. You don't have to become Mr. Olympia and just go crazy and take all the drugs. Like, start with fitness. Start with just your health and understanding your vessel and making yourself better. So hopefully I can help. Let's get this rolling. I am excited to show you all of this, and I hope that you'll give it a shot and at least give your own self-evolution and progression a shot in this manner. The physical is the best way to build your foundation, and then from that, the mental just stacks on top of it, and then it becomes even spiritual. This helps in so many more ways than just getting a six-pack, I promise. All right, let's get this rolling, people. Don't you wait. You start right now.
I'm on that motherfucking road. Oh no. Yeah. She like.
I wanted to save the haircut for a little later in the video, but as I was reviewing this part, it was not up to par, so I'm gonna re-record this part. Surprise! This is just, we're gonna formulate your split here. This is very individualized as well. It depends primarily on the time you can allot to the gym every week and what your recoverability is. I think a 3 or 4 day split is ideal for most people, especially just starting off, because you don't want to just sell your soul to the gym and immediately just delve all the way in. I find the people who can do that, it's actually really good for, like the 6 day split, because humans are creatures of habit, Aristotle said it best, and when you know what you're doing every day you're going to the gym, it just gives you a different type of commitment for a lot of people. But a 3 or 4 day split, if you're someone who's a little bit more busy or a little bit more timid about going into the gym, it's a lot more graspable. You know, if the president and the pope find time to exercise, you can too. You're not too busy, I promise. A 3 day split is just really good for anybody. Anyone can do it. You can find the time. Pull push legs is the best form of training in my opinion. I love how synergistic it feels. I tend to do a 4 day split because I like to have a little vanity day. I like to do arms on Saturday, really just to get a good pump and get blood flowing. I love being in the gym, so it's a day that I look forward to. And honestly, if you wanted to, you could have Saturday, you could formulate your plan around. So say you want to put Wednesday as the day that of the muscle group that you want to grow the most. And then on Saturday, you could do that muscle group again and still just really focus on that. It's kind of fun. It's kind of like a video game. You get to pick which one you want to really delve into and commit to while everything else is still growing. 6-day split, as I was saying before, is very good for a lot of people. For most general people, I find we are very habit-based, so at the beginning, going every day is very nice, and you can get pull-push legs done twice a week each time, which is beautiful for just growing muscle. I think this might even be the best way to do it. I just find that with my high-intensity style that my system can't recover when I do 6 days a week after a prolonged amount of time. It can work for a little while, but eventually I feel the progress just dwindle. I feel my drive in the gym go down. I'm not as excited to go into it, and those things are important. If you enjoy something, you are going to do a hell of a lot better. So those are the ones that I would recommend. I think that they're beautiful places to start, but a 5-day bro split, that's the one that me and everybody in my era, back in my day, we all used to do the 5-day bro split. It's good when you're starting off because you can really just focus on that one muscle group and just really find out how it works. So if you're just starting, you could still get away with this. I would just like that later on you evolve from it, because some muscle groups are going to recover faster than others. And you'll get a gauge for that as you go through working out. You'll notice which ones stay sore longer, which ones stay weak longer. If you really do have no time and you can only get a 1 or 2 day split, you can still make great progress if you're new to the gym, and you can still maintain where you're at if you're a bit more advanced. You could either do Monday, Thursday, anterior, posterior, which is front and back. You could do upper and lower body. You could move those days around depending on what feels best for you. Or what's probably most ideal would be to do full body twice a week. But it's a little bit harder to do a full body. You couldn't do the style of training that we do full body and have the same amount of spunk left in your central nervous system by the end of the workout as opposed to the beginning. So with this style, if you're only able to go twice a week and you just do full body, I think you want to leave more in the tank than with the style that we're doing, which is okay. You could still do the same style, but leave a couple of reps in the bank and don't go to that technical failure every single set, because you are going to burn out so fast. It's not necessarily how much time you're in the gym. A person who's been in the gym for 10 years versus a person who's been in the gym for a month. If you watch them do 1 rep of the same exercise, you can feel the difference between the quality of those reps. So the longer you're in the gym, years wise, it actually tends to be that the less time you spend in the gym, because you understand how to stimulate growth and how to work your musculature. It's most definitely quality over quantity in the gym, in my opinion. We are flesh and blood. We're not a machine. It's not necessarily the harder you pound us, the better the results are. You need rest and recovery. You stimulate growth, and then you rest and recover and actually grow. Consistency is also more important than anything. Don't just overdo it and go as hard as you can for a short amount of time. Hit a short-term goal that you have and then be done. We want you to find a way that you can enjoy this and you can continue doing it until you honestly can't anymore. When you're resting is the most important time, so allow yourself time to rest. Yeah, really just kind of find which of these feels best for you. Play with these, be malleable. If you have any questions on any of it, you could always hit me up, or any of your people who know things about the gym, and just kind of play with it. Find your groove, your zone.
In this game of villains and fakes, I am staying. Call me deranged, maybe I've been deep in my pain.
three-legged Siamese demon. She needs attention. I'm her person, so when she needs it, she gets screaming. So, back day, best day. I'm gonna be sitting here petting my little demon. If you hear the meows, bear with it. So, I've got this that I typed up here, and we're gonna go through this together. So bear with me if I'm not looking at the camera the whole time. I wanna do this right. I know. Also, 10 points if you know who this shirt is and who this is, where that's from, even though I'm covered in hair now. Back day is the best day in my opinion. Back is like the mark of honor for bodybuilders in general. Because I feel like most people can get like a decent chest, some good legs, some cakes if they're genetically predisposed and they are just active, really. Not me, but certain people. But a back, I feel a back is earned through years and tears. When you see some dude or someone with just like schmeat, like just a slab of schmeat on their back, that is impressive to me. And everything can be impressive, but back is just the one that I know you've grinded for. We are going to do warm-ups. No matter what the session is, no matter what you're hitting, please warm up. Just for the sake of not injuring yourself and being forced out of the gym or hitting that specific muscle for extended periods of time. We're gonna start with an active warm-up. If it's upper body, I'll do a lot of rotator cuff work. I'll do sometimes very light, like 5 or 10 pounds, sometimes no weight at all. I just wanna get blood flowing and get my rotator cuffs feeling warm and limber. And then if it's legs, I'll do a lot of like hip movements I'll do a lot of lateral movements, no weight at all, and I'll do a lot of kickbacks and forward just so I can make sure that all the blood is flowing and we're ready to go. You're gonna pick your favorite of the compound exercises for the day that you're doing, and you're gonna do a very light set. 10 to 15 reps, rep range doesn't really matter that much, cadence doesn't matter too much. I just want you to not struggle and get blood flowing into the targeted muscle. So for me, for pull day, I love rows. So I tend to do like a hammer strength row or something of the sort, and that will allow me to warm up all of my back for the most part. And you can move it all, you can warm it all up in one movement, which is why we like to do compound movements for our warm up. After you've done your light one, you're gonna go to a heavy warm up on that same compound movement, and the cadence is gonna matter here. I want you to do the same cadence that we're gonna do for working sets, which is, as you do your negative, 4 seconds on the way down, positive, 2 seconds on the way up. If there's tension at the top of the movement, such as most isolation movements, you will want to squeeze at the top for 2, maybe 3 seconds. And I know it sounds like a lot, and I'm like, 10 seconds for 1 rep. But that's where the art form comes in, and it allows you to take momentum completely out of the equation. Remember, I said this is anti-ego training. You are not gonna feel like a monster when a baddie comes up next to you and you got 15 pounds in your hand and you're like, but it's just how it works. Happens to me all the time. Like, I promise I'm stronger than this baby girl. You just caught me at the end of my workout. Then we're gonna go that heavy compound movement. You would want to do 3 or 4 reps, nothing too crazy, at a weight that you believe you would fail at 10 to 12. Remember, this is a warm-up. I don't want you counting any of these as sets, but I do want you to get all of these things done, because the active warm-up, the light compound warm-up, those both are to get blood flowing into the targeted muscles and to get you ready to go. The heavy compound is going to be the one that gets you to prime your central nervous system for the work to come. Once you're all warmed up, then we can get moving on to the actual workout. First thing, don't smoke, kids. It's a disgusting habit. So we're all warmed up. Now, the first exercise I tend to do is a pre-exhaustion isolation movement. The reasoning behind this is so I can get my targeted muscle, the one that I want to grow the very most for that workout, to be tired and to be stimulated. So by the time I move to my compound movements, I'm still taking that muscle over the edge after my isolation movement whilst using my other muscles around it to support it. Lats are pretty simple, honestly. All you can do is pullovers, but there are many different variations to them. I vastly prefer machines. If you got a Nautilus pullover, please do it for me. I'm jealous, bro. They're rarer and rarer to find. So in most cases, I end up just doing a good old cable. I like ropes. I also like a wide grip bar. It really just depends how I'm feeling that day. And lats are an interesting one. As I was saying, I prefer exercises that I can contract at the top of the movement. Like at the fully contracted position, I can squeeze for a second or two with it still hitting that targeted muscle. Let's just say, for example, on lats, if you're doing a machine, a pullover machine, or you're doing a cable pullover, both of those at the bottom of the movement, you're still feeling with your lats. Your lats are what's holding it there in the fully contracted position. So you can squeeze that and it's still very beneficial. Whereas if I were to do a dumbbell or a barbell and I'm laying flat on a bench, as I reach back, it feels really good. I really like the stretch of these things. As I start to flex it back up, and I'm using my lats, once it gets to this top position, all I'm doing is holding weight in my hand and flexing. It's not pulling on my lats anymore. So you can modify it and keep it higher, but I like a full range of motion. So it doesn't mean don't do them. It's just some points and things to think about, but do whichever one you like the most, that it feels the best. So now that our lats are exhausted and we're feeling ready to go and we're feeling hot, which, one more thing, if you're doing lats, it's not like a pull. Remember, it's an isolation movement. Isolation means one joint is moving. Boom, shoulder joint. Arm, not locked out straight, but flexed and controlled. And you row it down to your hips, and then behind you is what you want to envision. And on to our first compound movement. On pull day, I believe there's two like really compound movements and then just a ton of variations around them. Rows, pulling back, pull downs, pulling down. Always when you're lifting, try to keep posture in mind. We do a lot of sitting in today's day and age, and this is a good way to kind of like reverse the damage from what we've done, is if you have proper form and posture with every exercise that you do. Not saying that I do, but I try to stay minded about it. Rows, you're pulling back and below. Try not to let your shoulders go up or to keep your elbows up and to really focus on that. Focus on large movements, like a large arcing movement, so you can pull things down to your hips and behind you. Try your best with every single set and exercise to really put your mind into the muscle fibers, have proper form, feel the floor as you're sucking your core down into it, and focus on only moving, contracting, expanding the targeted muscles and doing the movement that you are actually doing. Okay. Rows are they're not too difficult of something to like explain. You really do just grab it and row it down. But the difference between someone just grabbing and pulling and someone grabbing the weight and rowing with all of their back it's very big, but it's hard to see those finer little details. So it's something that I really like to close my eyes so I can focus on just contracting what I'm trying to contract whilst keeping my core strong. So I'll do the compound row, hammer strength, around 8 to 12. When it's a bit heavier and more compound, I tend to do a little less reps, but each of these reps, 7-8 seconds, the time under tension is definitely there. And in pretty much every single exercise, I don't want you locking. I don't want you to, if you're doing a lateral delt, don't lock your arm out and just do a straight arm up. That just moves all the tension, in my opinion, straight to your joints. So I want you to keep, if I ever say straight arm or anything like that, it's straight to where you can still contract everything and control it. I don't want you locking out your elbows and just moving all the tension onto your joints as opposed to having control with your musculature. You don't want to go up too high to where the contraction is already complete and then you just move it and move the tension. But you also don't want to go so low that you lose tension, time under tension. You don't want to go so low on a bicep curl that you just relax and you get loose. You want to keep it the whole time. So you want to stay flexed. You want to keep your core engaged. You want to contract it up until you can't contract just your bicep, which is not that high up. And then hold it, squeeze it while there's tension still pulling down. And then slowly allow it to stretch and open. And before it hits the bottom to where you're locked out or relaxed, that's when you want to use that stretch to flex it back up. So we did our 8 to 12 rows, kept his shoulders low, focused on the schmeat of your back. And now we're gonna move to the opposing exercise. If you did pull downs, it's time to row. If you did rows, time for pull downs. Same concept with pull downs, core to the floor, arms up. And one thing that I do like to point out before, as people get into this, even people who are later into it, say I'm doing a pull down with a cable and it's a bar. The more I lean back and push my chest up, the more it just becomes a row from a different angle, which is still like okay, but really I would rather you just row from a different angle as your row. What we're trying to do with these are to stay upright, pulling into it and flexing our elbows down to our hips. So really just make sure that when you're doing a rowing movement, you're rowing. You're pulling it back and pinching your shoulder blades together. When you're doing a pull down movement, you're going more out and down. So back rows, down pull downs. The same concept with pull downs as well as you would a pull up. The vast majority of people I see do pull ups wrong, and they keep their shoulders up. They just do bicep kind of pulls as opposed to actually pulling with their back and pulling their chest up to the top of the bar. So just pay attention to what you're actually doing and never just fling weight for the yuck of it. Okie dokie. We got our lats pre-exhausted. We have done our 2 compound movements, a form of row, a form of pull down. Now we move straight on to the next isolation movement. I like to go straight to rear delt. I do rear delts on pull day because it feels much more intuitive. And when you're doing a lot of pulling movements, you're already hitting rear delts. That's why I like pull push legs. Rear delts are an interesting one. I think for a lot of people, maybe just starting with like a reverse pec deck or something a little more simple would make more sense for you. I'm of the face pull crowd now, but that took me a good while to get to there. Rear delts are pretty simple, honestly. You can do a whole lot of different movements for them. I think at the beginning, like I'm saying, if you just do the reverse pec deck, put your chest into it, keep your shoulders low, and just flex it back with a little bend in your elbows. And I don't want you just pulling back as far as you can for no reason, just pulling back to pull back far. Flex movements back until that muscle feels like it's fully contracted and hold it there, and then slowly move back forward again. Rear delts are one of those muscles that I really want you to pay attention to and make sure that you do not put too much ego into them. Think of how big your rear delt muscle is as opposed to like your chest. they're small muscles, so don't go too crazy with them. Weight is not the goal with these. I'll show a little bit like a face pull. They're interesting because you have to focus on a lot of things at one time. I like to grab the ropes, and then you want to go out and back, almost like you're doing a double bicep curl or a double bicep on stage, and you want to pull it back even further behind that whilst your chest is open and your shoulders are as low as you possibly can get them. So it's a weird movement, and honestly doing it right there without any weight feels weird too. But it's a movement that I think is a really good one to do. So if you're ever advancing from like a basic movement to a more technical movement, just make sure that you lighten the load and that you really focus on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Then we get to move on to the play, the fun muscles, biceps. They're not the most complex thing in the world, but you would be surprised at how many people you see just throw these things around without any mindedness whatsoever. So I'll just break down the two different heads of the bicep and what I would like for you to envision while you're doing them. The first is just the short head of the bicep, the big old chunker in the front that everyone shows off. This comes from supination. Look at that. You could have your arm up here and flexing it as up as you can, and there's still not too much tension. Whereas the second you supinate and you trying to pull your pinky to the other side, it activates amazingly. So what we try to do is exaggerate those, at least what I try to do. So I'll do two different things. One, just a normal bicep curl. Sometimes I'll put my arm behind just so I can have a little stabilization. I really do like doing one arm dumbbell curls. I'm not sure why, but with arms, doing them one at a time is it just feels preferable for me. I like to be able to focus on that. Not legs, but arms, I like to do it. So the first one is one that you're just going to really exaggerate, coming up straight and twisting. You want to twist this bad boy as you come up. You can either keep it like this, keep it twisted and locked, or you can do a little bit of a supination move at the top to try to keep a little more of that engaged. Then we're going to do our long head of our bicep, the brachialis, which is this. See, I don't know if I can see it with lighting. It's the little bumpy on the outside of your bicep, which is the one that actually makes your arm get bigger. So for that, it's really just the shortening. You can do a reverse curl, you can do a hammer curl, even easy bar curls where it's not completely straight, where they have the divots in them. Even if your hands are at like a 45-degree angle, it's already shifted the tension over to your brachialis. It matters on the position of your hand and where your supination is at. See, boom, short head, boom, long head. So you can pick whichever movement you like the most. Biceps are danky, so just have fun with this part. You've been through the worst of it, and now just finish strong. And at the very end, after you're all funned out, I like to do a little calisthenics movement just to see how far I've pushed myself and to get a gauge of where I'm at, and just to do something kind of easy to finish it off. So for a pull day, I'll just do pull-ups. Honestly, most people should do assisted pull-ups, and I prefer doing assisted pull-ups. I can do just straight up pull-ups as well, but after you've been doing all of this work, just doing a regular pull-up is not easy, especially with form in mind. So I'd say set it to a weight that's not too intense, and allow yourself to just try to feel more the calisthenics move and feel what you've done that day, and just push yourself to failure, but have someone there with you, or be ready to fail fast, because on a lot of these you're not going to last that long at the very end. But just do the pull-ups, use whatever weight you need to help you, and just move until you're either too pumped or you just can't anymore. and then you are ready to recover and get growing.
Can you believe he broke his covenant? His wings they darkened and he felt so free within. His heart went hard, family now flees from him. He'll sell his soul if it means a win in the end.
We're on to our push day. I don't have the craziest chest, so it's a little tough coming from me, but I have come a very long way in terms of my chest and pushing muscles. When I began, I used to have, me and my brother honestly, used to have kind of that concave chest where it would like go inward. Push day is a very fun day. For me, push day is like the ultimate like bro day, where you can just kind of turn your mind off, turn the world off, and just get pushing shit. It's the day that I feel like most people, especially bros, get the best mind muscle connection the fastest, where your first couple of years I feel chest really shines in terms of your enjoyment, and it's just like the day that like keeps you going, you know. If you can if you make it through legs, then you get to do chest, kind of a bargain with yourself. Chest is just like the big muscle of push day, kind of like for pull day, back is the big muscle, so those are the ones that I focus on a little bit more, but we're definitely going to hit everything that has to do with pushing. So chest, front and lateral delt, and your triceps, all of those things work in tandem, and they work in concert while you're doing pressing movements. So that's what we're going to go for here. Get them big meaty delts, get some chesticles going, and just kind of get looking house, baby. I'm excited to show y'all this one. Chest is a banger. Let's go. So we're getting to warm up on the push day. I prefer doing a chest press of one form or another. You can do whatever you would like to do, but I do like doing chest press as opposed to like a shoulder or delt press, because chest feels like you're hitting every single thing at once, like we were talking about before. Whereas if I were to do a shoulder press as my warm-up, I don't really feel I'm getting much, if any, chest activation for a lot of those. So I would do a form of chest press. You could do whatever you would like. You could do a decline, you could do flat, you could do incline, you could do cables, you could do machine, you could do dumbbells, whatever feels good for you, where you feel like you're warming up all your pressing movements at once. Same as the pull day, I would like you to do active warm-ups first. Before you get under any weight, do some active warm-ups, get some blood flowing, burn the cold out your bones, and then get to the actual weighted warm-ups. After you do those, you can formulate your plan how you would like, as we were saying before. If you want to be focused on your delts for these push days, then I still want you to warm up with a chest press because of what we just stated. But as your pre-exhaustion movement, you could do a lateral delt raise, you could do a front delt raise, you could do, hell, you could do triceps if you wanted to pre-exhaust that. And then your first compound movement, as opposed to getting straight into chest, you could get straight into delt presses and then move more into chest afterwards. There is a method to the madness, so to speak, where I want to do my chest first, so I'm almost continually warming up my delts and my triceps. So by the time my chest is finished up, then my delts and my triceps are already raring to go, and my chest will just support whatever it needs to support beyond that point. And then use your brain, and you can you can adjust, you can tweak, you can try things out and figure out how this all works best for you. Until you feel comfortable enough to swap things around, there's no need to. I know a lot of people like to just the age-old keep the muscle guessing thing. My stance on that is I would rather focus on these things that I enjoy, that feel good for me, and try to perfect those movements, which comes through a lot of different variations and a whole lot of differing things still, rather than just bouncing between a bunch of different movements before I even get the knack for it, which I see a lot of people do. Chest flies, they're not that difficult. Same concepts we've been talking about this whole time. Arms far away from you on a fly, but still a little bend in them with with flexion and control. Don't just lock these bitches out and go flying away. So we're gonna go out, let it come behind us, kind of the same as if we're doing a rear delt, but the opposite way. Let our chest really stretch. Sometimes I'll even push forward into these things so I can feel my chest expand and stretch even further. I like to keep a neutral spine. So you'll see a lot of people do very exaggerated arches when they do push day and when they do pressing movements. I don't want you to do that. I want you to try to stay neutral as possible. Not flat, but a neutral spine where it has a natural curvature. And you keep the muscle, you keep the movement in just strictly your muscle. So we do this pre-exhaustion 10 to 15 as we did on the pull day. And I really want you to get big movements. This is the first working set of the day, so you can really dig in and go hard and really focus on waking everything up while just exhausting the fook out of your chest. Now the chesticles are nice and tired and hot, and we're feeling pretty warm everywhere else. We can move right on to our compound movements. Push day, we have a little bit more compound movements than other days because shoulders alone tend to be... I like compound shoulders. You don't have to do them, and I'll explain it a little bit later on in this portion. But I'll go from the chest isolation, which I like cable flies a lot. I just, oh, they feel good. I get a good stretch, constant tension the whole way through. They're nice. Then we go into the compound press, the one that I warmed up with, where I'll go typically back to a slight incline chest. And when we're doing inclines, don't incline all the way up to 90 degrees or like even don't incline to the point where it shifts this tension to your shoulders, where we're trying to focus on our chest. So flat bench, if you're trying to incline, it is very slight, like one peg up, maybe two if you're feeling bold. Same with decline. You don't need to move these things so very much, whereas looking at your chest, you got from incline chest to decline chest is like an inch. So you don't need to swap your pivot point so vastly. These, I want you to focus on pulling everything back first. I want you to have a strong foundation behind you, and so your chest is locked in. So when you're doing these presses, you can almost feel like you're sucking it back and flexing your back, and you can feel that foundation tighten up, and then use that to keep your foundation there and flex your chest to move the weight back forward. We're not weight lifters. We're not trying to lift heavier and heavier and more reps. We're trying to make the quality of rep as high as possible and to stimulate growth. We're flexing our physicality. Yeah. Now we move on to the second compound movement. I did the incline chest press, so now I'll just go and... I'm not a huge fan of decline chest press. I don't want a bulbous lower chest. I don't want to get that gorilla look. But I do believe at the beginning that decline is what your chest is truly like designed to do. So if you just want mass and to put some schmeat on your chest, then I think decline's actually pretty damn good. You can go a good amount heavier on decline. I like to go from an inclined just to a flat. I just like to take whatever I'm doing over to the top, whereas the first compound I do incline as it's a little bit harder. And so when I get my 8 to 12 reps, when I swap to flat, my reps tend to go down a little bit. You can adjust the weight, but typically I'm already exhausted from that incline press, so I can just stay at the same weight, flatten the bench out, and then get moving straight into that. And my reps are honestly less, even though it's a stronger exercise, because of the work done prior. If you do a pre-exhaustion right, you could be like up to like 40% weaker right after that pre-exhaustion movement of that targeted muscle. So then I'll go to a flat. You can do decline if you would like. Same thing as before, 8 to 12. Really just try to dig in and push the same concept, but at a different angle. And let's cause some growth. And at this point, your chest should be begging for mercy, and you can give it a little bit of reprieve because we're moving on to the shoulders, which they should be not warm, but hot at this point. So I like to begin my delts after that with almost a pre-exhaustion lateral delt exercise. This lateral delts is the one that I want to focus on the most. Of all heads of my shoulders, laterals are the ones that I want. I feel like aesthetically they are just the kings. Remember, shoulders are not the biggest muscles, so this is not about doing the heaviest weight or anything of the sort. All you're doing is straight arm. Remember what we said, not locked out straight, but controlled straight. And then you're gonna go out and up, which you can totally feel the whole cap of your lateral delt while you do this. And some people, they say not to go any higher than 90, as fear of shoulder impingement is something that is everywhere nowadays. Start with 90 with light weights, but as you get more and more advanced, you can definitely go above further. You just need to be minded of what's happening and what you're doing, because some people will have shoulder impingements or get them, and if you feel a pain, like a joint pain, like not like a warm muscular burning pain, but something more acute that is not that is not what you want. So just start with the good old normal. Machines are actually pretty good too a lot of the time for these, and as you get more advanced, you can lighten the load and try different ranges. As going up above, if you have like a cable or something that's continually giving you tension, it also helps. It's still hitting your lateral delt, and it'll also help other lesser used muscles like your lower traps and a lot of your stabilizers. So I think that it's a good thing to get into, but you really do want to be careful on these and not just ego lift these bad boys, because they are an awesome muscle, but they are little bitches in a lot of cases. So you got to baby them a little bit, but they can be tenacious. So really just focus on what you're doing again, and focus on all your muscle fibers contracting up to the full position and using that to control it, and then going down slow. Isolation movement, only one joint is moving. I like to go for like 10 to 12 on my lateral delts. I just feel like they're already kind of tired from the work beforehand, and they're honestly just like not the craziest strength muscle. So I find 10 to 12 to be a really good range of that, where each time, like something small like this, these certain delt movements or like tricep movements are ones that you're not going to be able to do a lot of weight on, and that's okay. But for some people, moving up weight is their only way of seeing progress. So just be sure that you're careful about what you're doing and you don't just up weight unnecessarily. With this style of training, when we train this slow, 1 rep can be a significant difference. So you don't need to just be like, okay, I did this many reps, I did this much weight. Next week, I'm just gonna up the weight and try to do the same reps. I like to keep this range of, like, for example, on a lot of these, I'll do 8 to 12, where I'll start when I've bumped up the weight at 8, where I can like barely get 8 in, and I will stick at that weight until I can get 12 solid reps in with better form. And then by the time I can get 12, then it's time for me to slightly bump the weight up to a point where 8 is very hard to achieve again. Now we've got our lateral delts done, our chest is all finished up, we can move to our front delt movement, which for me, I think that we've mostly gotten enough front delt stimulation in terms of just all of our pressing movements and things we've done thus far. So I don't really feel the need to do a lot of isolation front delt movement, because I feel like I've already gotten that stimulus. So instead of doing front delt specifically, I'll do a compound shoulder pressing type movement. I like hammer strength compound presses. I really like Arnold presses for some reason. They've just always felt good for me, seated or standing. where you get the dumbbells and you're not going to go heavy like this like you would a normal shoulder press, because this hits all shoulders, all heads of your shoulders in one movement. So for example, at the beginning of an Arnold press right here, that's like the hardest part, where if you have the weight that you're normally just shoulder pressing, trying to do Arnold presses, you're gonna fail right here really quick. So do a weight that you can control. Start it from this front position at somewhere where you can control it and it feels good. And then you wanna go, you start front, elbows up high, and then you come out, pulling it back. So I'll just mainly use like my hands as a gauge. So they're facing me at this point, and then I'll go out into a normal, basically shoulder press, and use that to flex it up. And on shoulders, again, I don't want you to lock till your elbows are straight. I want it to be bent and flexed and controlled, and then allow it to lower back down and bring it back forward. You'll even feel your chest on these again. These are killers, where after this, you're gonna wanna be done, but it's the fun stuff after this, so don't you worry too much. And if you're someone who just really does want to hit front delts, isolation wise, that's okay. You can do that as well if that's up to you. They're not the most difficult movement in the world. All you do is grab some form of resistance, the hook, straight arm, boom, up, right there, good to go. That's all those bad boys are, really. You can do a whole lot of variations of them, but I prefer doing the compound movement. One, so I can take my lateral delts, which we pre-exhausted before this, over the edge and have them screaming as we do this. And then two, I just like the feeling of all of them moving at once, and I don't want to over stimulate just my front delt, so I get these big old chonkers right here. So that compound press, I would want you to do like an Arnold press, 8 to 12. Same scheme as we've always done. If you want to do front delts, 8 to 12 is still good. You could probably get away with 10 to 15. Just feel it out. It's up to you. And then now that we're done with the delts, which I'm not a big shoulder guy, so I'm excited when I finish these, because then I know that I get to move on to the tricepules. These things are some, yeah. Okay, now we got the chesticles all finished. We got the deltoids ready to go and rocking. They be done as well. We're going on to good old triceps now, baby. You've earned this. Chest day is not, it feels like it's one of the shorter days, honestly, but you do more movements, but they don't feel like as intense and systemically draining as, say, a really hard leg set or a really hard back set. So it's a cool little day that's just kind of fun, play. So for triceps, I honestly don't even have a ton of reasoning behind it, but my favorite movement for triceps, without doubt, is overhead tricep extension. I've been doing more and more with cables recently, and I love them, but I did start with just a lot of dumbbell work with it. With arms, dumbbells are just danky for me. I can't tell you why. So what I like to do with these is get a dumbbell. This is not a heavy dumbbell. This is not a strength tricep push down movement. This is an extension. So you be careful with what you put on this bar. You have it above you, chest up, upright. Allow your wrist and hand and the dumbbell to go behind, as if it was gonna go behind your opposing ear, so you can stretch it all out. Once you feel that stretch fully complete, use it to flex it back down while keeping your core low. Don't just like flop these things around and go moving around. I want you to keep your shoulders and core intact as you allow it to stretch down and you feel your muscle fibers stretching, and then use that to drive it all back down to your core. And we get around 10 to 15 on those bad boys. It's one of those lighter movements that you can definitely get away with more time under tension, but lower the weight. Another one of those finesse movements, if you will. So now that we have done that, we move to a little bit more of a schmeedy, more powerful tricep movement. Your tricep it consists of 3 heads. Tricep, you know, like bicep has 2. I don't necessarily do 3 movements for my triceps. I try to at the very least get 2. I like an extension, typically overhead, but you can do kickbacks, you can do a couple different variations. Some people even like doing things where they go across here. And then I will do one that's a little bit more meaty, a little more like sustenance to it, if that makes sense. Like a tricep focused dip where your elbows are focused back and your chest is upright. So you try to keep more of your chest out of the movement, and then you can really focus on just pressing with your triceps. You can also do tricep push downs. You can do a couple different things here, but this one you can get away with a little more weight. So you know what that means for me. When it's a little bit more weight and feels a little more compound or a little more like it's working my system, then I will do typically the 8 to 12. So for the extensions, I'll do the 10 to 15. And then for these more power-based movements, I'll try to do 8 to 12. But since I already did the extension first, I'm already not going to be as powerful. So this set can be a little bit more zug-zug. You could swap these 2 around if you would rather. I just like to get the more finesse movements done first. And then after we're done with this, just like we did with the assisted pull-ups on pull day, we get down on the ground and we do some pushies, just some good world downs, and push the world down with your form intact. I would much rather you do these on your knees if you're not able to do proper form push-ups. But 10 push-ups for most people, if you're fresh, is doable and not that bad. Whereas at the end of this workout, if you have perfect form and you've done all of this sufficiently, you're gonna get like 5 reps and just be like as you go pushing it up. So just be aware of it. That's just the finisher. After you finish that bad boy, good fucking job. Now you get to rest, you get to eat, you get to recover and prepare thy soul for Friday.
The moon turns dark every time you go.
What up, culture? Happy Friday. You know it's new year, new dreads. So I got a little haircut. I'm looking a little more anime-like, I think. So we're getting close to where we want to be. I'm getting the next step, get the pink like my boy Yuji. Gotta color these bad boys up after I lighten them again, and then I want to get some ink, and I still want to gain like 40 more pounds. But that's why we're here, baby. We're trying to make them gains. We're trying to evolve and become who you want to be. Legs are can't believe they're already here. You've made it through the mud and the dirt, and you had a good pull day, a killer push day, you're feeling yourself, and now you're almost to the top of the hill. You just gotta finish this day and just get through legs. You don't even have to enjoy them. I'm 14 years in and I still don't like legs, but I don't skip them. That's the main thing. Legs are a very important day. And duration-wise, they honestly feel like they're one of the shorter days. So you just gotta get in there, stimulate that growth, and get out and start recovering. So let's get warming up on this bad boy. Oh yeah, yes, and check it out. Patrick and Sasuke. It'd be doper if it was Itachi, but we'll take what we can get. So instead of focusing on delts as we do on the upper body days, we're just gonna mainly focus on hips and just moving your legs around and getting blood flowing into them until you're feeling like they're at least warm enough to start getting some resistance under them. We're gonna be doing our light compound movement, whatever your favorite is. I tend to lean towards more of a hack squat or a like from the floor cable squat, but I have like this specific machine that kind of feels good for that. Typically I do hack squat, where I feel like I can warm up all of my legs at once and it doesn't feel like weird at any point. It feels like a constant tension from the bottom to the top. So that's just been a good one for me. If you like to barbell squat, more power to you. And we're doing the same cadence on these as we have for all the other warm-ups of every other day. You're going 10 to 15 on your light one, and I mean light, and you're just moving, just getting blood pumping to where you want it to. Then the heavy, 3 to 4 reps, a weight you think you would fail at 10, prime the central nervous system, and then we can get on to the only muscle of legs that I somewhat enjoy. Oh, quads, baby, quads. So, quads. The only thing I look forward to that gets me through a leg day is doing quads, and I love to pre-exhaust them. I have pre-exhausted my hamstrings in the past, even fucking calves before, but quads are just the one that I feel a good connection with. I get a crazy pump on, and it just seems to set the tone for the rest of my workout and keeps my quads screaming doing almost anything else. So all we can really do on quads are leg extensions. If you're a bit more advanced and you don't have a leg extension machine, you could look into like sissy squats and things like that, but if you're not comfortable with doing those or you haven't done them before, I would recommend getting a coach or just starting very light and very easy with support, so you can do your best to do the movement and keep the tension on your quads without just shifting it to like your ankles and your knees. So machines are definitely the best for this, especially for overloading over time. But you gotta make do with what's available to you. So quads are one of the very few exercises that if you're doing a leg extension machine, again, we're doing quads, we're doing isolation, so your knee joint is the only thing that be moving here, just the knee joint. These ones you can lock out at the very top, but again, I still would prefer if you go like 98% of the way till locking out, so you're just flexing the muscle at the top while it's still pulling down, as opposed to just locking out and trying to use your knee joint as the fulcrum for holding the weight there. Good job, you finished quads. The only good part of the entire workout in my opinion, but once you've done this, I feel like you get into the zone and you're ready to just cruise through the rest of it. The rest just it's painful, but it feels smooth at least. So now that your quads are pre-exhausted and you're feeling them, as quickly as you're able to and safely, go back to the compound movement you warmed up with and get straight into it. Your first compound movement, I want you to focus a little bit more on the quads. So that's why I like to do like a hack squat or maybe a goblet squat or something of the sort, where I'm very upright and my knees are going in front of my feet. This is one that you need a little more ankle flexion, so if you're not that great at that yet, I highly recommend things like goblet squats and just taking the weight down and really focusing on a fluid movement all the way down, where you can be comfortable and ready to drive from a position of power. Then the second compound movement, I want it to be a little more hamstring focused, so I like to do a lot of like a deadlift or like a box deadlift, so it's a little more on the legs as opposed to the back, or a sumo deadlift if you're privy to that and you can do it properly. I also like just that, as I was saying before, like a cable from the floor movement where it's still compound, but I can really push my hips far back so I can focus on my glutes and my hamstrings. You could do lunges here if you're privy to that. I fucking hate lunges, so I rarely do those bad boys, but if they're your movement, by all means. Then from one compound into the next, we're gonna go to our isolation movements and finish off the rest of the workout. And a good way to differentiate the compound movement that hits your quads versus a compound movement that's targeted on your hamstrings, your posterior versus your anterior chain, is the more upright you are, the more it's going to be a little bit more on your quads. So like a front squat, for example, is going to be more quad dominant, whereas a low bar back squat is going to be a good amount more hamstring and glute focus. So just try to envision those things. They feel very different. So we're all done with our compound movements and our quads. Our quads should be screaming by now, and your hamstrings should be more than warmed up and ready to go to do our isolation hamstring movement. You've got a couple different options. I tend to be of the porpoise curls, where it's like a lying leg curl on a machine, and you push your chest up off of it, and that way, for some reason, it just really gives me a proper squeeze at the top of that movement, and it feels more just on my hamstrings as I lower the weight. It just feels really fluid for me. I don't mind seated hamstring curls. I just think I have shit mobility or something, because when I'm getting close to the top, it feels like my hamstrings are just gonna like rip off of the bone. So I go a little more conservative with those, but I really do like the squeeze at the bottom of a seated hamstring curl. It feels proper. You could also do like a stiff-legged deadlift or any movement like that, just trying to do either isolation, or if it is compound, try to make its variance as targeted to your hamstrings as possible. Yeah, hamstrings are a very tenacious muscle. That's also why I do them after the quads and the compound movements, because I feel like they almost need those warm-ups to be able to really push them past, but that could very well just be me and my big old dumb brain. All right, it's time for us to take a trip to the bakery. We're gonna be hitting glutes here, get them cakes, them buns. Whether you're a dude or a chica, glutes are important. This is where a lot of your power comes from. These are very large muscles. The ladies will respond to these typically a little bit better and a little bit faster, because that's where you're genetically predisposed in most cases. Men tend to be a little more upper body. Women tend to be a little bit more like hips, thighs, lower body. So fellers, you don't skip these. Ladies, enjoy these. For glutes, I think there are two big movements that I like to do. I am a little bit more of the kickback squat. It feels a little more isolation. I feel like I get a longer and better contraction and stretch with these. So when you do those, just keep your hips locked and really don't go heavy on these. Like this one's, it's more isolation feeling. It feels a little more finesse. And then you just want to keep a straight leg, bring your hit leg back, and then kick it back straight up and keep it controlled and squeeze at the top of the movement with your leg. Oh, these ones burn the slop out of your glutes. Even my shitty glutes, I feel these bad boys insane. So try them out. If you like a little more like power with the glutes and you want to do put a little more weight on the bar, and you like more compound, like animalistic athletic movements, then I believe that hip thrusts are a great option for you. You could do and should do both more than likely, but find the one that feels a little better for you and stick with that until you understand what you're really trying to do, and then move forward. Let's build these babies. We gotta be double cheeked up on an everyday. Yeah. Now we just do the finisher, baby. We're just going to calves now. You've done an awesome job. Nice work. Honestly, as hopefully you'll see once you've done this a few times, once you get warmed up, you could do legs in like 20 minutes if you're mething out and just going hard, but don't go so fast that your cardio and like your oxygen levels feel like they're taking away from the quality of set. Unless you're advanced and you're really trying to focus on like supersets and things like that, I don't want you like and then go into the next exercise and just going and not being able to put any true effort into it. Yeah, remember that weightlifting is anaerobic. So if your aerobic level is starting to feel like it's taking away from the power that you need, take a little bit, breathe, and prepare yourself for the next set, because we're only doing one set of each exercise in 99% of cases. So I really want you to be able to put forth an earnest effort, especially in the sets towards the end of the exercise. Even if you're not able to get what you would get fresh, which you shouldn't be able to, I just want the effort and to keep it, definitely stay minded and stay safe, but I just mainly want you to take things over the top and to just keep grinding and flexing. Think in the muscle. Alrighty, you've made it through the worst of it all. Now we just gotta get these calves done, and these little bitties be very tenacious. So if you need to up the weight, or for me, up the reps, it's very nice. I still feel like 10 to 15 on the seated calves at the beginning is good, especially if you're doing our right cadence. But if you're feeling like you can keep going, you could go up to 20 reps if you wanted to. Calves can handle a lot more than you would anticipate them. They're kind of like hamstrings. I just feel like they're very tenacious. Seated calves, really it's pretty self-explanatory. There's two main parts of training your calves: straight leg and bent leg. They work two differing portions of your leg, I believe. Again, this is where me not going to school for this shit shows through. But I believe standing is the gastrocnemius, and it just builds the overall size of your calf, kind of like the brachialis of your leg. Whereas the seated is building that shelf that comes out. So you definitely don't want to ignore either of them. If you really don't like calves, I would be okay if you do standing one session and the next session you do seated. But I'm pretty darn sure if you've made it this far in the workout, you can get away with being able to do seated and standing calves, and then you're pretty much good to go. You should be dead. You should be leaving there So good luck on these bad boys, and once you're done with this, you have done an awesome job. The week of progression, you've been through the worst of it. Now you just gotta eat, you just gotta sleep and recover and prepare for the upcoming week. Awesome job. Wow. Good work!
I shoot you things all in the face, I'm ghost busting. I can do things running the race like corruption.
Alright everybody, amazing job making it through the training portion of the video. I know that I am a jabberjaw, but there's just a lot of info I want to be able to impart to someone who's new to this. So here I just have some minded training tips that I typed out for us. I could have done this at the beginning of the video, but I feel it's better to kind of ease people into these instead of me just overwhelming you with a bunch of words and phrases. So now I've kind of it's more me just reaffirming these things. So always focus on your cadence when you're doing working sets. I don't want momentum in the movement. Think in dualities. This is something that I just like to do, where if I'm working my back, I'm expanding my chest and I'm thinking about the opposing muscle of what I'm working. Core to the floor, we've talked about enough, honestly. Keep your core low, keep it maybe even back a little bit and controlled with every exercise. Your ego is your enemy in this style of training. We're not just trying to do the heaviest weights, but we are trying to improve pretty much every time we're going in the gym. But keep yourself minded on your improvements and don't just keep upping the weight even when you know that you shouldn't be. Envisioning, the same thing I've been talking about a lot. I like to close my eyes. I like to really focus on trying to get every muscle fiber to work in concert to hit full extension and full contraction. Utilize a training partner with this style of training if possible, because the negative portion of the movement is where you're growing a huge amount of your muscle, and you're gonna give out on the positive part of your muscular strength much faster. So it's beautiful to have someone that you utilize just to help you get up to the positive, and so you can still work these negatives until they get to the point of burnout as well, at least technical failure. keeping everything tight. It's also kind of in line with the core to the floor, just making sure that what you're focusing on is just the musculature that you're focusing on, and don't just swing or move things around. Breathe when you train. Almost as if when we're doing our 4-second negative, I like to breathe and prepare and visualize a coil being wound tight, where at the bottom you can use that tightness at full extension to control it back up. I don't want you kipping things, as in like if you're doing a bench, I don't want you to like and like push it hard first so momentum comes into play. I still want you to build power at the bottom though, and use that to flex things back up. Enjoy it. Training's the best part of all of this experience. So do your best to find things that you enjoy, find people that you enjoy at your gym. Gyms tend to be awesome communities. Or, just realize that this is the good part. And yeah, when we're improving every single set, I don't just mean weight. You could go up by anything, really. So just be minded about everything that you're doing.
Did I go too far this time?
All right, y'all. Final notes on training are for you advanced lifters, for the ones who have been in this for years or have tried this style of training before. You have a couple different things you can do here. There are supersets, and I mean true supersets, where right after your isolation movement, typically you'll go immediately into that compound movement. And I mean within like 10-15 seconds. You want to start it off as fast as you possibly can. Then there's singles, where at the end of your exercise or movement, once you're dead, you move it to a weight that you can do one with proper cadence. 1 rep is about failure, and you're just gonna do that one single rep, put the weight down, try one more single rep until you hit absolute failure. And then there are negatives, forced negatives, where at the end of your exercise, when your positive strength is completely gone, you have your partner help you bring the weight up, and you do an even slower negative to really emphasize trying to burn out your negative strength. These I would only do 1 per session. You could do a superset, you could do singles, you could do negatives. If you're like super advanced and trying to go crazy, you could do a couple of these, as in like the first 2 sets you did a superset, and then maybe on exercise 3 or 4 you do some singles, and then on your final exercise you do some forced negatives. But I think just one of these beyond sets is more than enough for an exercise in session without you starting to take away from other portions of the exercise or the session. Now, the most important part of all of this, nutrition. This is the part that is going to actually dictate how you look and how you feel. The training is the fun part, and the part where you begin the process for growth, where you turn the switch on. When you're eating and sleeping, that's when the growth and the fat burning and all of these things are actually happening. The gym and training, resistance training, is just the stimulus to begin that process. So let's dig into your program for nutrition. This is a little tougher because nutrition is very individualized. I don't know you, and I don't know your specifications and your goals and what you're going for, but this is a good guideline to get you into minded eating, and we can adjust for depending on whatever your goals are, and you adjust the foods or anything depending on any allergens or anything of that sort. So we begin with good old protein. Protein is extremely important, but I do believe it's overutilized in a lot of cases, and it turns into excess. So I think for most everybody, 80% of your body weight is a beautiful place to be at for protein, and as your body weight adjusts, you adjust the protein intake with that. If you are eating all of your carbs and your fats, then protein is actually, you don't need near as much as you think, because the carbs and fats are protein sparing. They allow your protein to just be used for what we really want it to be used for, tissue growth and these important functions. as opposed to if you're too low on your fats and your carbs, then your protein could be used as an energy source, which we would not like. Or if you have too much protein, it'll be converted into excess, which we do not like as well. So 80% is a great place to start for most people. You can vary it very slightly depending on who you are. Like if you're enhanced and doing a lot of things, then you could probably get away with more protein. But for the vast majority of us, I think this is a great place to start and stick with, honestly. Then we go on to healthy fats. These are extremely important for your hormones and for your brain health, and they're subtle, but they're actually going to help you burn the bad fats. So make sure that you pay attention to the fat you're allowing in your body. These are somewhat variable. If you are trying to bulk up, you could probably get away with a little bit higher of a percentage of healthy fats per day. If you're trying to cut and you are overweight, you could probably cut out a little bit more, but never cut these out completely. These are extremely important. I'd say like the lowest you would want to go is like 20-25% body weight in healthy fat. But again, it's pretty variable. So try it out at around 33%, see how you're feeling and looking after a couple of weeks, and then we can adjust from there and see what feels and looks best for you. Then we go to the carbs. These are extremely variable. These are the ones that you can really play with. Again, I like balanced. I don't want you to ever do no carbs. I'm not a keto guy personally. I think you should utilize carbs. They're a beautiful thing. They help you stay hydrated, carbohydrate. They're very, again, protein sparing. You can use them as your energy source. They're really good. They help you build muscle. Carbs, your muscle is very watery, and your muscle is like 70% water. It's a huge percentage water, so having the carbohydrate to keep it hydrated is really good, and carbs give you them dirty pumps, which we like, in addition with sodium. Carbs are the variable one, so if you're trying to bulk, I want you to add around 500 calories worth of primarily carbs, maybe a little bit of fats. If you're trying to cut, I want you to take away primarily 500 calories worth of carbs, maybe a little bit of fats, and then you just change your protein as your weight changes. Also with the carbs, I would like you to take into account that it depends how much energy you're burning in a day. So if you're someone who, like you're a construction worker, you go to the gym and have crazy hard long workouts and you're always on your feet and you're moving nonstop, then you're gonna need to utilize more carbs. If you're someone who is basically sedentary, then you don't need near as many. So it's, again, this part is very individualized. So take an honest look at yourself, give yourself a score of 1 to 5. It doesn't matter where you're at, and adjust accordingly. This next part is just a little bit of these tips that I've done. This is more optimizing. This is, as long as you get those calorie and macro goals in, you're gonna be pretty damn good for the most part. This is just if you are a little bit of a meth head like I am and you wanna be a little more optimal. So I think 5 meals a day is the best for protein synthesis. Eating around every 3 hours, getting protein, pairing it with a carb and or a fat. If you can only, or you prefer eating 2 or 3 meals a day, then you can totally get away with that as well. Just adjust accordingly and eat every 4 or 5 hours and eat a little bit larger meals to compensate. I like to go heavy on protein, at the very least my first and last meal of the day. You could just evenly space out your protein throughout the day and you're probably going to be fine. But if you want to be a little more optimal, I think there's some benefit to be had by having a little bit more of your protein your final meal of the day, so that you can try to utilize it while you're sleeping. Your first meal of the day, because you just woke up from a long fast and you want to get growing again, and then either your pre or post-workout meal. I don't have an appetite post-workout, so I tend to do a pre-workout meal where it's a little more simple carbs plus a decent bit of sugar, or a decent bit of protein, so I can not have to be digesting complex carbs and I can still have protein to fuel me. But I don't have an appetite after working out, so I think that there is definitely some benefit to having your third high protein meal being post-workout, but that depends on you. So then for carbs, I think I tend to use the bulk of my carbs the first like 70% of my day, and then I'll use my simple carbs surrounding my workout. Basically pre and post workout, I like to use simple carbs for glycogen reasons, and I don't want to be digesting a lot of heavy complex carbs while I'm working out. And then I'll utilize complex carbs outside of those windows. Then for healthy fats, I like to move them more towards the end of my day when I'm not utilizing carbs as much, and so I can go heavy on the fats towards night so that it'll slow down my protein absorption, so I can try to utilize as much protein as I can while I'm sleeping. Account for your protein sources from other sources. Use the PDCAA score. That's really good. Most like protein sources like fish, chicken, whey protein, eggs, things like that are all going to be a 1-to-1 ratio for the most part. But you will be getting some protein from like oats and rice and your other forms, and you can use that score to kind of look at how much you'll actually absorb. Say you're getting 50 grams of protein from oats in a day, you might absorb like 20 grams of that. So use that score whenever you're in doubt, and it'll kind of help you be able to slot in more protein from your carbs and your fat.
Oh yeah, I need more. Might be texting me like, how you stay so dreaded? Coffee and weed, how you...
Alright, now we're going to get on to this second little page I've typed up for us. The first one is just to kind of give you a baseline numbers and a guide and things to stay minded about. This is just a good amount of options as you are flexible with this all. So remember, I'm not telling you to do these specifically to the T, just keep it in ranges and then adjust as you see fit. Variety is great. If you're a cook and you like to eat a lot of differing things and you like to make fancy meals, there's a lot of options of your favorite foods that are actually clean and good for you. You can make a pizza banging bodybuilding meal as long as you're using good ingredients for it. If you want to do 5 meals, 4 meals, or 3 meals a day, you can do 3 hours apart for your 5 meals. You can do 5 hours apart for your 3 meals, or 4 hours apart for your 4 meals, just to keep timing a little bit better and to help your digestion. All of these here are basically a 1-to-1 ratio or very close to it, so you could use all of these. These are some great options for fats that you can utilize. Basically, you're going to be cooking in a lot of healthy fats. A lot of the time you could have nuts and nut butters for like shakes or just as snacks to get more healthy fats. And then, avocado is a great snack to bring it along, or a portion of a meal that you can add in. Salmon and fish with a lot of healthy fat in them are great to utilize here and there. I don't like them very much, but I'll still eat them here and there. And then carbs, you've got your complex carbs that are going to be a little bit tougher to digest, but that's a good thing as it slows down protein absorption and it just helps you throughout the day. So things like oats, things like breads, things like pastas take a little bit longer as complex carbs to digest. Like also, if you're looking at carbs from like fruits and veggies, a lot of veggies like broccoli and things like that can take a little bit longer to digest. Whereas the simple carbs are really good utilized pre and post workout, and you get those through like fruits, you can get those through juices, you can get it through potatoes. Pretty good for you to be able to digest it relatively quickly. There's a good amount of options for all of them. So honestly, you could still just eat your fruits and veggies throughout the day as you'd like, but some of them are a little bit more fibrous and harder to digest. So you could, if they tend to impede with your workouts or with your energy, then just try to stay minded of what you're allowing in your body and adjust for what you actually need and what you're doing. Again, fitness is very individualized, so just make a baseline start, see how you progress and how you feel and adjust from there until you find what works best for you, or get yourself a coach that can do all of that groundwork for you.
Breeze from the west to the east. We roll with many beings like all the nations deep. You got a place to sit.
Mad scientist part, the supplements. Supplements are definitely just supplementation for the other parts of this, for your training, for your nutrition. They're not gonna make or break you. They're the final piece of the puzzle. You need the other two to be established to really get the most out of supplements. So this is kind of the play part, and where you can fill in the gaps. So we'll just start with creatine. Good old monohydrate is the most studied. Creatine deposits more water into your muscle, and your muscle is primarily water. A couple of things, I did work in a supplement shop for like 3 years, and so I studied a lot of things about supplements and just looked into it a lot and tested a lot of them out. Creatine, I say, unless you have something specific that they don't want you to take it, just take it, because it's great. You don't feel different on it, and you don't really get bloated like a lot of people say you will. Like, you don't gain a ton of water weight from it, but it does help you just ink out the last rep or two in a lot of cases, and that is really good. As I've said before with our style of training, 1 rep difference is quite significant, so it's a really good thing to use. I'm kind of a nerd, and I like creatine nitrate because I like anything that contributes to more of a pump. So I'll just take monohydrate on my days that I'm not training, and then I take nitrate on the days that I am training. Honestly, just start with monohydrate, try it out for a couple of weeks, see how it improves your strength and how it helps you out, and notice that it's not as crazy as everyone makes it out to be. I honestly don't feel any difference at all. So protein powder, most people are just going to utilize protein, as it's tough to get your necessary protein from the day without adding a ton of fat and carbs if you're not utilizing powder. And it's easy, it's very easy to digest, it's quite clean. Protein powder has come a long way, so don't be afraid of it. I tend to like isolate protein when I'm a little more serious in it all, but really I'm fine with whey. I do whey the vast majority of the time. Isolate is also good if you tend to have digestion issues with whey. It takes out most of the lactose. There we go. But a lot of protein is just, it's all high quality nowadays. You could take whatever form of it that you feel is good for you. Just look at the nutrition label. Myelin tends to be my favorite for whey, and then I like Nutribio for isolate, but I just like vanilla. I'm basic as it gets, so try out different brands and see what's best for you. Multivitamins, I think they do have a place. I don't think you necessarily are like relying on them, but they tend to help fill in the gaps for whatever you're missing. I don't think that they're as efficient as actually getting vitamins and minerals from food and sources like that, but a lot of the time it's hard to actually get everything in that you need, so you might as well just supplement it. You don't need to get anything fancy. I tend to like Myovite, but it's more of like a jack of all trades, and it has a lot of differing things in it in one little pack of vitamins, so it has more than just multivitamin, but you could just get your basic one from like Walmart and be fine, honestly. Pre-workout, you got a couple different options here. This is more the fun part of it, where you're just gonna play around. If you are privy to caffeine, which caffeine does have a lot of benefits when it comes to exercise, then go for a stimulant one. I love my stims, but I'm kind of a weenie nowadays, and I'll tend to just do like a half scoop of a stim pre, and then like 3/4 to a full scoop of a non-stim like pump pre, but I'm a pump fiend. So when it comes to stims, I really do like Berserk by Black Magic, and I like Kill It by 5%. They're just, the pumps feel good for me, the flavors are dank, and they've just always been good to me. But I've had a lot of really good pre-workouts. I've had a lot of pre-workouts that are not great for me, like DMHA, yohimbine. Those ingredients are not my friends. Some people just get an amazing sense of euphoria. Some people just feel sick for hours like me. So pay attention to what ingredients are in your pre-workouts and how they differ one from another, so you can kind of get a gauge of what each of these ingredients does for you. Non-stim pre-workouts, there's PSP by Metabolic is a really good one that has pretty much everything you would want. Like, it's a full spectrum pre without the caffeine. So that one is beautiful, tastes good. If you are just intolerant to caffeine, or maybe you train really late at night and you don't want it to keep you awake, then that's a great option. Pump pre-workouts like Ectoplasm by Black Magic, EPO by After Dark. There's another really good one that I've been taking lately, but I forgot what it's called. I can envision the bottle right in front of me, but I don't remember what it's called. I'll have to figure it out later. Those are really good just for blood flow. As you get more and more into the gym, I feel like you appreciate the pump more, and just trying to take that as far as you can it's fun. So I pretty much always take pumps. Pumps are like my favorite part of pre-workout. Green supplements, if you're like me and you're kind of a piece of garbage and you don't eat enough fruits and veggies, then they're a great thing to just utilize. They don't make up for not eating actual greens, but they do help a lot if you're someone who just sucks at that shit like me. The greens, I really like Super Greens by Glaxon. Most greens I feel like taste like chalk or just like wheat. Like they're nasty. And so the Super Greens by Glaxon are actually pretty banging, and they taste really good mixed up with other things as well. So I'll tend to mix that up with my nootropics. I really like Goon Mode by Glaxon as well. Nootropics are really cool. They just get you focused without needing to rely on a ton of caffeine throughout your day, and I feel like they last for a lot of the day. So that's my favorite of those two, and I do take all of these things that I've stated thus far. I take creatine, protein powder, a multivitamin, pre-workout, pump, and nootropics and greens. Those are like my favorites. But after that, we still have a lot of things that you could try out and see how they work for you. Carb supplements are great. I think they're very underutilized. So, like, if you are going through a workout and it's going to be either a really long workout, or you don't have time to like make a shake or get carbs in you, then a fast digesting carb is really good intra-workout, like Carbolin, or there's certain carb supplements that are like designed for working out. So those are really good to utilize pre, post, and intra workout. Then for slow digesting carbs, if you just want something that'll sit in you and just digest for a long period of time, Waxy Maize is really good. It's a good like breakfast type thing to throw in your shake. If you don't have an appetite in the morning, then you could just pound a shake, and something like that is good to get your body going. BCAAs, pretty dang good. I believe if you're like low on protein, you can utilize them a little bit more, but you get a lot of BCAAs just through diet. So along with EAAs, I think EAAs are a little bit more important, but you should be getting them through just eating protein. If you're dieting, then for some reason I've noticed BCAAs intra-workout feel better, and they seem to actually benefit me, but just try them out and see how they feel for you. Fish oils, they do have benefit, but studies seem to be pretty conflicting on them. So they're at these bottom ones, these are ones I just want you to try out and see if they work for you and how they work for you, because it seems to be different for different individuals. Glutamine is just good for recovery. I've never noticed glutamine that much when I take it versus when I don't, but I've had other people who swear by it, so see how it works out for you. Carnitine is, other than just good quality sleep, carnitine is one of the only like fat burners that I kind of agree with. I don't think that it's like, I don't swear by it, but I think it has its place. Carnitine is intended to get your body to use its fat cells as energy, so it's supposedly supposed to help break up like stubborn fat areas, but I'm not quite sold on it yet. But it's one worth trying out if you really feel like you need a fat burner, honestly, even for placebo. Try out carnitine. It gives you some natural energy, and it's supposedly supposed to help with fat burning. And then if you're a dude over 40, honestly, every dude should just get your test levels checked. Just see where you're at, and if you're low, address it, because that is one of the biggest things you could possibly do. Yeah, supplements they're fun, so try out a bunch of different things. I think there's some core ones that are worth utilizing, and there's ones that are worth just trying out to see how they make you feel.
Maybe the gods don't like me. Maybe I'm a threat to their seed. Maybe I'm meant for some more.
Thank you, my culture. I appreciate you sticking through this video. I know it was a lot of gabbing from your boy, but I really do hope that I could help you just get a baseline of knowledge, and so you can push forward. All I want and all I ask from my culture is that we all accept and refine. We accept who we are, where we're at, what we were given, and we refine the areas we believe are the most important or most desirable. I want you to forge your own path, and I want you to believe that you can do it. Something like this really just helps. It's a direct correlation from this into confidence. When you tell yourself you're gonna do something and you do it, that is the recipe. So I hope that you all got some form of help from this, and that it will help you take that step forward. Just one step forward is all I ask. One foot in front of the other. I'm gonna really work on culture this year. I'm excited to make new music for us all. I'm excited to work on more and more content, and to just evolve myself and this community further and further. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate and love everybody who sat through this entire spiel and lecture, and I'm excited to get evolving with all of you. Let's fuck it.
Got demons in my brain, Got demons in my brain, demons in my veins, yo. Demons in the grave, yo. Hooray, demons in my brain, demons in my veins, yo.